Okay, the recording has started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Apologies, we're a little late this morning, and to everyone, including anyone who may be watching us. First, I think I'd like to introduce ourselves, and then I will go to our legal advisor before we start the meeting. I am Gina Adamu. I'm a councillor for Haringey Ward, and I chair the licensing subcommittee. Can I ask my colleagues, councillors, to introduce themselves? Who wants to start first?
I'll go if you like. It's
Okay.
Councillor Bob Hare, member of this licensing panel.
Thank you.
And I'm Councillor Stone, also a member of the panel.
Excellent, thank you. And can I go to the offices, please?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Del Barrett, licensing team leader.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Williams, the legal advisor.
Good morning. My name is Nazia Chowdhury. I'm the Principal Committee Coordinator and Clerk to this meeting.
Thank you very much. And anyone else? We have with us the police, I understand.
Good morning, everyone. I'm PC Kaylee Mitchum, and I'm one of the licensing officers for Haringey and Enfield.
Okay. And do we have the noise officer with us?
No, Chair, the noise officer is not in attendance.
That's fine. Before we start,
Chair, we actually have the license holder here.
The notice giver, Mr. Ray.
Mr. Ray.
right.
To introduce himself.
I can't see Mr. Ray. Would you like?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just I'll get the video up. But yeah, I am here. Yeah, sorry, here we are.
Okay, welcome. Thank you all for attending. I have to go to the our legal advisor. Michelle, do you want to come in at this point?
Yes, Chair, I was going to give some advice if Mr. Ray was not in attendance, but now that he's here,
Right.
that's no longer necessary.
In that case, we carry on. Okay, first I'd like to remind people that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for public viewing. Apologies, I don't think we have any, we're all here. Am I correct?
Yes,
Urgent business. Again, I don't think we have any. Declaration of interest.
None, Chair.
Okay, thank you. The procedure for this meeting have been emailed to all participants by the clerk. For the purpose of any members of the public watching, we will first hear from the licensing officer. After that, the objectors will present their case and the committee and the committee will be able to ask questions. After that, the objectors will present their case and the committee will ask questions. Notice giver will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then the notice giver will present their report for temporary license, and the committee and objectors will have the opportunity to ask questions. All parties then will have the opportunity to sum up, and then the meeting will conclude to allow the committee to deliberate and reach a decision. This decision will then be provided within 5 working days of this meeting. And now I think we start with our licensing officer. Mrs. Pike, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say, Chair, maybe a slight change to the timelines on this one, because obviously they are for temporary event notices, so it would be prudent for a decision to be made today in view of the fact that, in fact, the first ones that Mr. Ray has requested is actually from this evening.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The panel has before them consideration of temporary event notices that have been submitted by Mr. Ray at Kiss the Sky, 18 to 20 Park Road. The report details these notices, and you have at 1.1 the list of dates involved here. Just for background information, once the premises does have an existing premises license, temporary event notices are used if the license of activity needs to be extended beyond the current operating hours. And in this case, I believe Mr. Ray is asking for extensions through till 3 a.m. on those days as shown. The matter is here before you because the applications have received objections, both from the police licensing team and also from the council's noise team. The authorisations that are being sought is in fact, to enable the furtherance of the sale of alcohol and regulated entertainment and late night refreshment at the venue. So on page 2, you've got there what I've just explained really about the premises user being the notice giver and being able to give the a temporary event notice, and the explanation I've previously given. There is the statutory consultation, and during that time, of course, the officers, police licensing and the noise officers have made representation. The premise user is required to give a copy of any notice, of any temporary event notice to the police and council's noise team no later than 10 working days before the first day of the proposed event. If either body is satisfied that allowing the premises to be used in accordance with the notice would undermine any of the licensing objectives, they must give an objection notice to the licensing authority and to the premises user within 3 days of receiving the copy of the notice. It is also possible to give a late tens with between 5 and 10 working days. However, if that was the case, there would have been no need for a hearing today because it would have just meant that it would stop in its tracks, basically. There is no further provision in the Act for temporary event notices to be consulted with other responsible authorities or the public at all. So it is just with the police and the noise team. As the panel know, in considering the matter, of course, the 4 licensing objectives are paramount. And the committee must ensure that all licensing decisions have a direct relationship to the promotion of one or more of the licensing objectives, have regard to the statement of licensing policy, as well as the section 182 guidance. There must not be a blanket policy to the extent that it is applied so rigidly that an exercise of discretion in each individual case is precluded. Just to remind the panel, of course, that Human Rights Act does come into play here, as does our own statement of licensing policy and the guidance therein. Chair, if I run through, Chair, to the background information for you. So the premises itself has been the cause of a review, a previous review, which was submitted by residents back in June of this year. What can I say? The Kiss the Sky has previously did operate as a wine bar for many years and has a history of noise complaints. This, however, increased significantly when the new owner, Mr. Ray, took over, and the venue proceeded to operate as a full-on nightclub in the eyes of the residents. Those living nearby, who until this time had been used to hearing noise from the bar type operation previously, now had a much louder operation to contend with and a changing clientele. An application for the review of the premises was submitted by residents in June following the operation of the premise, leading to the rise in noise and nuisance complaints. The review document at the time cited the disturbance from the premises, in particular on the 21st and the 23rd of June, as being intolerable. Mr. Ray had not at this time transferred the licence into his ownership or varied the DPS to ensure that any sales of alcohol were authorised at the premises. The licensing service received an email from Mr. Ray on the 17th of May 2021. An email with advice on how to transfer was provided back in the May. Mr. Ray submitted an incomplete application on the 21st of May, which was rejected by the licensing service with the cautionary advice that he was unable to carry out licensable activity until such time the corrected papers had been submitted and the process duly followed. The venue was operated without having the correct authorisation in place. This was later regularised by Mr. Ray in early July 2021. The premises licence that currently stands allows for alcohol sales until 1 a.m. On a Friday, Saturday. On a Friday and a Saturday. The rest of the week, the alcohol sales finish at midnight. And the supply of alcohol at the premises is for consumption on the premises only. The noise team was subsequently called to the premises over the course of the weekend from the 21st to Sunday the 23rd of May, following reports of loud music emanating from the premises. Noise nuisance was established and a warning letter was hand-delivered on the Sunday the 23rd of May. Council officers visited the premises on the 28th of May, saw a DJ on site playing loud music, people dancing on site, patrons consuming alcohol at the time. Alcohol at a time when there was no DPS assigned to the licence. The officer engaged with the manager on site, who at the time refused to give the name of the DPS when asked to do so. Mr. Ray was then subsequently issued with a COVID FPN for the breach of COVID regulations that were seen at the time, but this FPN was later withdrawn as the officer had used the incorrect template. The group manager then took the view it was too late to reserve the correct template when the error was later realised. Residents continued to submit reports of noise nuisance emanating from within the venue and from its patrons outside the venue over the coming months. The evidence gathered was presented to the licensing subcommittee, and residents spoke of the impact the new style of management and at the venue was having on their lives. Mr. Ray was represented by his legal representative at the hearing. The view expressed from Mr. Ray's representative was that he was new to the area and should be welcomed and permitted to make mistakes over a period of time until he was able to put things right. The committee, however, having heard the evidence from the responsible authority, residents and the respondents, were satisfied that there had been a failure on the part of the licence holder to promote and uphold the licensing objectives relating to public nuisance and crime and disorder and prevention of crime and disorder. In determining the review matter, the committee had regard to the management of the premises and took the view that the licence holder had willfully disregarded his obligations in several respects. Despite written warnings not to commence trading until a designated premises supervisor had been appointed and the licence lawfully transferred, the respondents ignored the authority's correspondence and began trading at the time when he was not lawfully permitted to do so. The committee also mentioned the COVID matter as well, failure to promote that safely. The venue was a source of considerable noise nuisance, which emanated from the premises via sound systems and also as a result of its patrons dispersing from the premises with little supervision and in a manner that disturbed neighbouring residents, and was characterised by antisocial behaviour, including street fights, shouting, swearing and the use of racially charged language. The premises failed to furnish responsible authorities with CCTV also when requested. And the door staff at the premises refused and or failed to confirm that they had SIA authorisation when asked to do so by the council's enforcement officer. The committee was satisfied on the evidence that it heard that even with conditions, a licence holder would not be able to address the problems with respect to the antisocial behaviour and noise nuisance that were taking place in the immediate vicinity of the premises. And being satisfied of what they heard, the committee then determined to revoke the licence. Mr. Ray has subsequently lodged an appeal against that decision by the licensing subcommittee. That matter is currently, we hope, with the courts. We're waiting for clarification from the courts as to what exactly has been lodged and how they're going to proceed with that. Since that time, there has been further complaints received. Residents continue to contact the out of hours noise team, antisocial behaviour team, really there are regular updates from residents about issues that they are experiencing. The last complaint I believe that the council has logged was for the 28th of November. 3 complaints came in. Unfortunately, there was no officers on duty at that time to go and witness anything at that time. The authority also served a noise abatement notice on the premises. I believe that was the 22nd of August that was served. There has been subsequent visits to the premises where further noise nuisance has been established, but I believe the noise officer did not follow up and take the next step on in that regard. Mr. Ray has also emailed various elected members and the mayor also on the 5th of September, stating that the council has failed to support him and citing that sadly he feels it's necessary to say that he feels that the diverse backgrounds of his clientele, which is completely different to the previous owner, is a major reason why there is a motivation to close the business and make sure there is no room for progress, was the view he wanted members to assist him with and to try and, well, he said try to overcome. So the panel has before them that's just by way of background. So the panel have these various temporary event notices before them. Obviously, the noise officer's letter is enclosed in the pack. It's unfortunate the noise officer is not here today to speak to the letter, but nonetheless, it is in the pack there. And you can see that the officers stated that there has been, I think it's 42 further complaints I had seen in her letter, yes, that the applicant has requested an extension of the existing terminal hours from 1 till 3 a.m. The council continues to receive complaints about noise from patrons congregating outside the premises and noise from a noise described as heavy bass-led music played in the premises. Since June 2021, we've received 42 complaints about noise nuisance. These have often been reported outside our service hours. The most recent complaint at the time was the 21st, but as I said, there has been subsequent one on 3 on the 28th also. Chair, there I can leave it if you have any questions for me. You do have the police officer here who'll be able to speak to their own representation, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Chair, just before I finish, just to say, Mr. Ray has also notified that he has been carrying out some works or aiming to do some works around noise suppression through the building. And I know he tried to have a residents meeting, I think it was last month, although none of the residents turned up, I believe, or maybe one did, I'm not sure. But yeah, I know he is making some, or trying to make some progress there. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I? Oh dear. I could hear myself. Anyway, I could hear my voice repeat itself. Can I ask if members have any questions? Please indicate. Councillor Katz. Councillor Hare?
Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't realise you'd called me.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it's just a couple of questions. Am I at the moment I ask the officer questions rather than Mr. Ray. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just wondered whether there's any information on the time that the noise reports from residents were coming in to the noise department. Is there any indication of that?
So the latest one on the 28th, the last report, there was 3 across the day, but the last one received was at 1:43 a.m.
Okay. Okay. And what time was the license to at that time? Was it 1 a.m.?
Yes, so license for activity would have finished at 1 a.m. and the premises closed by 1:30 is what the
Okay.
license allows.
So it's okay to play music until 1:30, is that correct? Or play music until
Let
1?
me explain. So the regulated entertainment, depending on what day, so Monday to Thursday it's 5 till midnight, Friday it's till 1 a.m., Saturday till 1 a.m., Sunday till midnight.
Okay, I don't think I've got all those down. I was trying to make a note. Okay, so that was well past the time at which music should have stopped. Is that correct?
That's
At
correct.
1:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So by depending on what day that was, the 28th, it could have been that people were leaving. Maybe that was patrons' noise outside as they were leaving.
Okay.
The 28th was a Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very late then. So that should really have been
12
yeah,
o'clock.
midnight, midnight really for closing. So at 1:43 in the morning, that is extremely late.
Sorry, can I get an opportunity?
You will have a chance. You will have a chance later to represent your case.
Yeah, I know, because there's a lot of things
And
being
you have
said
a
that are
chance
just
to ask questions
not
as well.
correct.
No, you have a chance to ask questions in a minute. After councillors finish their questions, I will come to you.
I think that's the end of the questions to officer.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from Councillor Stone? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions either at this point. And can I? Okay, Mr. Ray, do you have a questions now? You can ask.
Well, the councillors just said the 28th of November, if that's right, yeah, on Sunday,
Yes.
on a Sunday night, is that correct?
Yes, that's what she said.
Right. Okay, Sunday the 28th of November on a Sunday night at what time was it?
1:40.
The last complaint received was at 1:43.
Yeah.
Is that Sunday morning or Monday morning?
Yeah. Sunday night into Monday morning, 1:43
Right.
a.m. So it would have
Okay.
been the early Monday morning.
Okay. Now this is another point where, this is why it's good for me to be present in these meetings, because a lot of things that have been said about the venue are just not true.
Yeah,
And
you
this
need
is
to
another,
answer the question at this time,
yeah,
Mr. Ray.
but I'm sorry. I have.
Hang on. Mr. Ray, you have a chance to do your own presentation later. At this
Right.
point, we tried. If you have any questions on the officer's report, please ask your question.
Okay. All right. Okay. Obviously, this is a public member of public has reported this. Okay. So, is it possible that when members of the public report incidents, that they might not be from the venue that they're reporting, and it could just be someone making noise on the street?
That may well be the case, but the person that rang in obviously gave this venue as the venue that they were as the source of the complaint, which is why it has been logged.
Yeah, well, the reason why I say that is because we weren't even open on that date.
Right. That's okay. You can say that here, but again, we don't have evidence of that here, so we can. You state.
Well, I can show on the cameras.
Another question.
We weren't open on that date.
Okay, so we've got the panel have nothing here from you to show that. So if you have another question for me.
No, there's something. I rather and also as well, sorry, there was a situation where the noise officer was going to mediate between myself and the neighbors, and I had to take it upon myself to try and mediate with them, and we have been getting some kind of communication now by email, because none of them turned up to the meeting. But
again, you be able.
I'm just about to ask a question. I'm just about to ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah. What I want to know is, I did also request that if the noise was an issue, just to allow us to have background music until 3 o'clock. So has this been considered as well?
Sorry, you cannot be asking the committee to allow you to just have background music until 3 o'clock. You are either applying for an extension of your license under the 10s or you're not.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay.
And where did you put that in to? But sorry, it doesn't matter anyway.
I put it in. I can't remember one of the forms. I mentioned that you know, background music could be the problem solver if there's an issue with the music.
Okay.
Well, no, it's regulated entertainment. It's counted as, Mr. Ray. So that's why the committee have it before them.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't have any more questions, you have a chance to do your own presentation later. Can I ask if there is any questions from the police? I think it's Mrs. Mitchell.
No further questions from the police. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Just one more question, please. Sorry, is that right?
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. It's been. I mean, I've seen the objections from the police, from Edmonton Police. But what I don't understand is, when the police make an objection, is it because they've frequented the bar and they have an objection, or they're just going by what's told to them?
Okay, you can ask the question when the police do their own presentation, which I'm about to call in. If there is no more questions on the licensing officer's report, then I will go to the police to do their own presentation, and then you have a chance to ask your questions.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Can I ask Mrs. Mitchell, whatever you're ready?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Police received several TENs which have been rejected by ourselves. This is in relation to information that we have received third party via the local authority. We've been made aware, apologies, of ongoing ASB and noise nuisance in the area. We've been made aware that patrons from the premises have been loitering outside the venue. They've actually been seen to come out of the venue and be on the pavement. This has been at around times of 2:15 in the morning. And a separate occasion, it was around 2:30 in the morning. These dates were around, I can just obtain the dates when this took place. The most recent date that this came in was the 23rd of October. Patrons were seen at 2:15 in the morning, chatting loudly on the pavement as if it was the afternoon and not the early hours of the morning. Of course, this is adding to the noise nuisance in the area that the local residents are receiving. Doesn't seem that the premises are putting anything in place to avoid this happening and to avoid any further public nuisance occurring, especially at such early hours of the morning. This also gives police cause for concern if patrons are not being asked by the venue to leave the area quickly and quietly on exiting and are being left to loiter and congregate on the pavement at such early hours of the morning, in turn disrupting and exasperating the local residents. We have cause for concern that this could lead to possible disorder and confrontation, of which we want to avoid. And it appears on these occasions the premises haven't done anything to prevent this from happening and in turn not upholding the licensing objectives. And that's all from myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, in a minute. First, I will ask the councillors if they have any questions. Councillor Bob Hare.
Thank you. Sorry, I'd left my hand up accidentally.
Oh, don't worry.
But it applies now. So I'd just like to ask the police whether they have sought to secure any CCTV footage from inside or outside the premises, whether there's any additional evidence that they have for the noise or disturbance. That's my question.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Chair, it looks like Kaylee has been, do I need to admit her back in?
Yeah, pass the notice, yeah.
Can I answer that, please, Chair? Because obviously Councillor Hare has mentioned noise. So whereas the police won't necessarily come out for noise nuisance as such, and more often than not, when these complaints come in, if they go to 101, then they're not a police officer will not come out if it's noise in the street from patrons just idling, I'm afraid. And likewise, our own enforcement officers, that's going to be hit and miss as to whether or not we've got people on duty or not at that given moment in time. But what we are receiving are footage from residents. Yeah, because obviously the residents bought the review themselves in the beginning and they are aware that the matter is now potentially going to court. So they are keeping their own diary logs and will submit footage that if they've been disturbed by noise or whatever from the street, they then are gathering that footage and then uploading that to the council. Yeah.
Could I just, through you, Chair, may I just ask, you've actually got some footage showing what's being alleged and indicating on the footage the times that this was occurring? Is that the case, Dahlia?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions, Councillor Hare?
No further questions.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from members? I think I had one question, but I think you covered, Councillor Hare. Do you want to add anything else to this question, Ms. Mitchell?
Nothing further for myself, thank you.
Okay.
Apologies, I lost signal earlier.
No, don't worry. We all have problems this morning. Then I will ask Mr. Ray. Do you have any questions?
Sorry, I mean, just mention about some footage. Which footage is that? I don't know which. I haven't been informed about any footage.
So, Mr. Ray, you will recall that residents did submit a number of footage for the review.
Oh, all right. I see. I thought you meant recent footage. So, right.
No, because we're not obviously, as I've said in the report, officers, your license condition requires that you have CCTV in operation, and that CCTV is to be made available to authorised officers on request. Obviously, the first time that was tested, that failed, and they didn't receive any CCTV footage from you. But it's hope going forward that if that is requested again, that they will be able to receive any CCTV footage that is requested from you, because that's a requirement of the licence. But what's being referred to at this moment in time is the evidence that's been gathered and continues to be gathered by the residents who have been affected.
I mean, just one quick question in regards to the police, because it mentioned about this doesn't seem to be any policy in place to ask patrons to leave. I mean, we have that in place for the last 2 months now, where that's part of the noise plan that we discussed with the noise team, and we have been doing that all the time. To suggest there is no policy in place is, as again, like I keep saying, is not true. There is a policy in place every Friday and Saturday, where when it gets to around the closing time, where we tell all guests that they're not allowed to go outside with their, unless they're leaving the premises. And when they do leave the premises, they've got to move from the area. They can't stand outside and chat, etc., etc. You do get occasions where people leave and potentially someone else from another venue might come along and stand outside the venue, and it appears like they're coming from us.
Okay.
And that happens all the time. We're surrounded by venues.
Mr. A, I will come to you to do your presentation in a minute. But meanwhile, can I ask, do you have any questions?
No, nothing. So.
You don't have any questions. Are there any more questions or clarifications? If not, then we move to Mr. A. Mr. A, you are free to do your presentation.
Right. Okay. Firstly, I want to say that, the way the background is presented, I mean, if I didn't know what the situation was, I would probably think, oh wow, that place is pretty damned by the way it's been presented. But like I keep saying, 90% of the things that's being said are just not true. They're vastly exaggerated. They're done with hardly any evidence. The initial period, I put my hands up many times, and I said, initial period, there was teething problems because I didn't know the area fully, and the residents weren't really communicating with me when I tried to communicate with them to find out what the issues were. So I pretty much found out what the issues were after the license review had been done, And when I tried to reach out to the council, because obviously, it's my first bar. I hadn't, I haven't had much experience in licensing. There was a couple of mistakes that I made with licensing, so I was reaching out to get support to try and get things done correctly, and they know that. So it's not like I disregarded this and I disregarded that. They could see that obviously I didn't have much. I said that in the emails. I didn't have much experience in licensing. I was trying to get support, and just help me out rather than trying to box me in the corner and make me out like I'm just defying everything, which I wasn't doing. Also, you keep mentioning the DHP like I didn't have anyone in place, but they're not mentioning the fact that the previous DHP was willing to carry on as DHP, but they sent him an email saying that if he carried on being DHP, he's likely to be prosecuted. All right. So all these kind of things create a complete different story than the story that's been presented. Now, when it comes to the neighbors above have now moved out. The initial neighbor who bought the review, the one who basically went around giving leaflets to the whole area, trying to provoke them into leaving complaints. Okay. And there was basically those two up there above us and one couple opposite, and they the ones who attended the license sub meeting previously. Okay. Now, recently we've been in communication with the couple opposite, all right, and they've told us what their issues are, and that is basically when the door opens, the front door opens, the noise comes out, and that's their main issue. But I've also seen them a lot of times outside, out in the windows with their phones recording, and a lot of the times they're recording people who are nothing to do with the venue. They're just walking past, coming from other venues, and they just assume just because they're in that vicinity that there are patrons, and this happens a lot. And I was also told that the same couple used to attend the bar when the previous owners were there. And every resident and every business that has been there long before I arrived have told me that Kiss the Sky has always been a music venue. It hasn't been a cocktail / library. It's been a music venue. So why all of a sudden is there just, this whole situation to try and get it closed down? When I arrived there were speakers there. When I arrived, when I took over the business, there were speakers there that were being used. This wasn't a situation where I brought in speakers and there was nothing else before, and then suddenly I started playing music and there was no music before. That's not correct. But the thing is, like, this side of the story is not really presented. And of course, yes, I have to present it myself, but I don't like the fact that the council who initially said they were going to support when it comes to the noise team and mediate, haven't mediated at all. But yet at the same time, they put out, like, for example, like there's no noise policy and we've got patrons running riot all the time. This is not true. It's not true at all. You know, and for example, it was mentioned just a little while ago about there was some patrons outside at 2:30 in the morning standing outside making noise. Okay. Like I said, I'm happy to see the evidence if there is any evidence. Okay, because it's not fair to just put things out there and say this is what's happening when there's no evidence to be presented, because it influences people's decisions, because when there's no evidence, it's not fair. And I've bent over backwards since I arrived at Kiss the Sky to try and please the neighbors, to try and do everything I can to limit the noise. And you know, I spent another £4.5 grand just last week soundproofing the flats upstairs, yeah, so that whoever moves in there next doesn't get affected by noise. Okay, and we're trying to seal the air vents with acoustic covers so less noise travels out as well. Okay, because this is part of the thing that I discussed with the neighbors opposite. All right, but I feel like there's too much blame attached to the venue for things that are not necessarily correct. And I think there needs to be more balance in the way that the council sees us and the way that the residents' complaints are looked at. Because when I come on these meetings and I'm told I'm hear things like they're facts when I know they're not facts. I'm there every Friday, Saturday. I see I'm going to start recording myself now and showing evidence that there is nothing like what's been presented on these meetings. All right. There was something else as well I was going to say. Bloody hell, it's so much information. I can barely remember now. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. I just think that I need a bit more balance. It's just not fair at the moment. And like, for example, these tens that I'm putting in, I mean, come on. I mean, even New Year's Eve is pulled, turned down. I mean, like, I mean, I didn't even apply for me, to be honest with you. I applied for the people that come to the venue, and they're all asking me, how come we can't even get an extension when every other venue can get an extension? Why is it Kiss the Sky can never get anything? We can't even get a pavement license. We can't get any single thing. Anything we apply for, immediately turned down based on this review. It's just unfair. How can I run a business when every single thing is turned down all the time? You know, it's just not on. You know, it's not on at all. You know, I've had to manage. You know, when during the summer, you know, we've got COVID marshals coming around saying, "Oh yeah, open. Oh, you know, make sure people can get outside and the rest of it." You know, and we can't even set people outside. It's nonsense. It's too unfair. And you know, I think, to be honest with you, an easy resolution could have been, for example, you can stay open until 3 o'clock, but the music's got to be at a certain level. That would have been an easy resolution rather than just saying no to everything. It's not fair to the people who live in Crouch End who want to have some form of nightlife, not live in a ghost town like they do in Hampstead, for example. People want some form of entertainment. It's not shouldn't be looked on as a bad thing.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my presentation.
Thank you very much. I will take questions from councillors. Can I ask? You keep saying there is no evidence and people are lying, but you haven't provided any evidence for us to see that they actually are lying and it's not correct, or what they're saying is not correct.
What I said is I'm going to start recording myself now.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I've got to run a business. I can't spend my whole time dealing with the neighbors all the time. It's too time consuming. I'm spending more of my money that I'm getting from the business on the neighbors than the actual business.
How do you do that? How do you spend more money on the neighbors?
Because I'm having to spend soundproofing, then I'm having to spend money on for example, the sound engineer who came around the other day to do the sound limiter. I have to do all these things, all these extra things.
But surely this is not money spent on neighbors. This is money spent to make your business will be, to contain the noise from your business, so your business can, carry on.
Absolutely. But the thing is, where does it stop? Do I just carry on spending? Because the neighbors are always going to complain. especially that couple opposite, they're always going to complain. It doesn't matter what I do. They're always going to complain. Whether it's music, whether it's someone walking past, they're always going to complain.
Okay.
So where does it stop? I'll do everything possible to stop stop noise coming out of the venue. And we do have a policy in place where when people are leaving the venue, that they've got to move on quickly. We had an issue with a young group who never came to the bar but hanged around opposite the bar, and we got them to move on, and those efforts are not being presented. The couple opposite, they see me out on the street all the time telling people to move on, move on, move on. They see that my security telling people to move on all the time. I'm constantly telling people to be quiet when they're smoking. They see all that, but that side of things is never presented. It's just presented like we're some hellhole that just makes loads of noise and disregards every council request, which is not right.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors? It doesn't seem so. Oh, Councillor Hare.
Yeah, I did have some that when I was just looking back in my notes. Just give me a moment.
No, that's fine.
As you were speaking, I was jotting things down. Is there any requirement on you now to have COVID restrictions, i.e. keeping doors open or windows open? That's one question.
Is that for myself or?
Yeah, it's to you,
Okay.
Mr. Ray, yes.
Well, not in the same way as previously, but
Okay.
as for example, like last night, we have a lot of elderly people come on Thursdays, pensioners, etc., because they like their live music and everything, and it's a very fine balancing act because we have a fan in the building that takes a lot of this steam out when it's quite busy, but sometimes they ask for a window or door to be opened, and it's difficult because like if you open the door, you get complaints. If you close the door, you get complaints. So it's like, it's tricky. It's very tricky. But when relating to COVID itself, we're not having any restrictions like imposed on us by any COVID marshals or anything like that. But it's just very difficult to please both parties. That's all.
Just if I may, Chair, another question. Irrespective of what does or does not happen as a result of your applications now, fitting CCTV would relieve you of the job of trying to do any of this yourself. If you had CCTV outside looking in both directions up and down the street, wide angle, if you had it inside the premises with sound recording, this would seem to me to be something that it's not a costly investment. Finally, the sound monitoring has to be done by every venue in the borough, otherwise it ends up with problems. Alexandra Palace, for example, I'm on the board there, has a noise person recording in different streets away from the venue, just at the edge of the park, with almost every large event. So this is something that is just simply essential for you to do, or to control the noise. And you have to accept that in order to convince, sorry, I'm giving you a lecture. I didn't mean that, but
No, right.
It is not expensive to my mind to fit cameras. And I'm just commenting, and perhaps you can say whether you think it is very expensive.
Well, I have done CCTV, and it does show all of the outside. It shows the whole of the outside of the venue. I'm not sure about sound. When you say about CCTV recording sound inside, I'm not sure about that. I've not heard that before,
Okay.
but sound monitor was installed. Yeah, I'm not, okay. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's an essential part of the business.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Sorry, it wasn't really a proper question, and but thank you for your answer.
Not to. I think the licensing officer wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to give some clarity to Councillor Hare's query about COVID regulations. So there are no statutory requirements in place at this moment. The obligations regulations fell away at the end of lockdown. The general advice is really about ensuring that there is adequate ventilation in a room, in any premises that anyone is in. You know, if it is a crowd of people and that sort of thing there. But yes, as Mr. Ray says, it is a challenge because obviously windows and doors open mean that noise does therefore break out and will become an issue.
And that hasn't changed as a result of the latest proclamations from government?
No. The guidance on ventilation still being a good idea is still it remains on the government's website. The mask wearing debate, which has now become statutory again, doesn't affect Mr. Ray's business at this moment in time.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions, are there any more questions from members? If not, I will ask the police officer who is with us, if Ms. Mitchum, if she has any questions.
No further questions for myself, thank you.
You don't have any questions, okay. Can I ask whatever there are, before we move on, ask whatever there are any further questions or points for clarification from anyone?
can I just ask
Check,
one question to the police?
Sorry, hang
Can I
on.
just ask one quick question to the police, please?
I don't, okay, go on. I don't want you leaving here thinking you didn't have a fair fair opportunity. Go on, ask your question.
It's just that has there been any I mean, because you keep mentioning disorder, this word keeps getting thrown out all the time. Disorder, antisocial behavior. Has there been any call outs for disorder or antisocial behavior at the bar, at the premises? So.
In short, no. From the police, we haven't received any calls, but calls are, if they're in relation to noise, we won't deal with them anyway.
Yeah, it's the enforcement officer who will deal with that, and then they're not with us today. Can I, Mrs. Barlow, you want to come in?
Chair, it may help, Mr. Ray. I mean, I have tried to explain this previously, but residents are going to be, it's termed ASB, antisocial behaviour, if residents are being disturbed by the behaviour of patrons out on the street. And it was not something that would go through to the police as such. You know, it is going to be something that the licensing enforcement team are going to be informed about and asked to come and witness, along with any concerns relating to noise also. Chair, can I just, while I'm speaking, can I just clarify, please? Mr. Ray mentioned the issue with the DPS when he first took over, and that the council had stopped the previous DPS from taking part in something. The previous owner gave written notification to the licensing authority that he had stepped away from the premises. And then a week after Mr. Ray had been on site and the problems had already started and so forth, and reviews were being considered by the residents, and I was saying to them, well, give it a chance, see how things go. You know, maybe it was just a one-off, the opening weekend, and things will improve and so forth. I know the noise officer then contacted the previous licensee, who then contacted me to say, well, I'll come back on the license. Well, so it was not an issue of he was stopped at all. The advice was very clear to him that, you know, your license will then be in breach, basically, because if it was then a subsequent matter of a review matter, your license as the DPS would be an issue going forward. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more clarifications or questions? If not, I will ask everyone to, given the opportunity to sum up. And I'll start with the licensing officer, Mrs. Barry, would you like to sum up?
No, Chair, I don't think there's anything further I need to add.
Okay, can I ask the police, you want to sum up? Is there anything you want to say?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay, in that case, I will ask Mr. Ray, would you like to sum up?
No, I've pretty much covered most of the things I would say. I mean, just that last point about the DHB. I was with the previous license holder when he showed me the email, and it clearly said that if you attempt to become the DHB again,
Sorry.
then you're
Chair.
potentially liable for prosecution. It said that
Legal
word,
officer.
just that word itself, put him off.
Okay, Mrs. Barrett, yeah?
Oh, sorry, just a minute, Chair.
I think we lost Bob, Bob here.
Yeah.
at the back.
I'm very sorry. The connection dropped for some reason.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, Mrs. Barrett, you want to come in on that?
No, Miss Williams is
Miss William, okay.
legal officer.
Okay. Michelle, would you like to come in on that?
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to clarify something that was said in the report, just to make the committee aware that in making your decision today, you can impose conditions on the TENS. I think it's set out in Miss Barrett's report at paragraph 2.6.
Okay. Thank you. Right. If there is some, I think you ought to sum up. If there is no, if everybody is happy and no one has a question or wants to add anything else, that remains. It doesn't seem like it. That remains for me to say thank you. We are, as a subcommittee, we are going to. I'm going to ask you to leave for us to make a decision, and you'll be notified. Usually I say within 5 working days, but it may be earlier because of the circumstances of the events you having coming up sooner. So I'm sure the officers will notify you.
Can I just say one very last quick thing, if that's all right? Just
go on then.
20 seconds. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate, decisions have gone against me again, and if it can be considered where there can be some kind of conditions, I'm happy to carry them out. Like I said, the venue is not a disruptive venue. It's in the middle of Crouch End. This is not. There's no drugs, stabbings, crazy stuff going on. It's a well-behaved venue. It's community hub. A lot of pensioners come there during the midweek. And I just think that there needs to be a little bit of balance here. So if it can be considered where there's some conditions, then it'd be grateful.
Right, thank you very much. We always consider and we always look at the conditions, so we are the conditions. The committee is about to do that. Once you leave us, we have a full discussion and we come to a conclusion which you'll be notified of our decision. Thank you all very much for attending this morning. I'm sorry, we all had some problems with the technology, but we got there in the end. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Naz, you let me